Hello, hello, testing 1 2. In this stream, I'm going to be going through a box called Blackfield on Hack the Box. Now, I've done this box before, and I've actually done my OSCP. I did it quite recently, and I managed to pass. So, I want to go through the methodology that I would use in preparation and during the OSCP, just in case it might help anybody. I want to give this stream maybe about 60 minutes. Don't want to spend too much time with this, but the main thing from this would be effectively to showcase the methodology. I've already started the box on Hack the Box, so I'm just going to jump in. Hopefully you can see on the top right or just above me on your screen. This is methodo. It's just the methodology that I've built up. These are the notes that I've taken. And I've kind of accumulated hours of practice, and into doing I would have taken a bunch of notes and I would have put them into this canvas. So this is just using Obsidian, and it makes things graphically nice. I feel like it's almost one of a kind. I've not really seen this used in this way, but it was quite helpful for me when going through the exam and when going through CTF boxes and so on. So I thought I would take this time just to showcase this against an actual AD machine in Blackfield. So I've got the machine set up. We've got the IP. I'm just going to quickly zoom in. First thing I would do is just set up my environment. So I like to just have multiple tabs, separating some of the tasks. It makes things easier for me and keeps things organized. And that's quite important in the OSCP. So I'm going to have a folder, or sorry, a tab named Blackfield main. And this is generally just how I would start off any CTF or box I'm working on as well. I'd like to make sure that I'm organized. Okay. We'll have one open called trgt file upload. We probably won't need this now, but effectively in this directory I've got a bunch of files that would be useful to transfer over to the target machine for things like privilege escalation, lateral movement, and so on, post exploit stuff as well. So once I've opened up my tabs, okay, let's just see what else there is. So there is Legolo, which is used to effectively funnel through a machine or use a machine as a jump host to reach internal hosts. We won't need this for this machine. This is a standalone machine that we're working on. We've got Bloodhound. Maybe we can use Bloodhound. We might need this, we might not. Well, actually, probably will use this on this machine. Cool, WebDAV and a few others which we probably won't need. Now the first thing that I would run whenever starting a CTF or similar would be a tool called CTF Gen. This is linked in my GitHub under CTF Workspace Generator. Effectively, this will be used to create a bunch of directories and subdirectories, as well as setting a global environment variable which can be used under any tab as long as you load the bash profile of the user, and then it can also be used to perform a connectivity scan. I'm just going to copy this. We're going to come in and change the name to Blackfield. Platform is HtB. New target IP. Just grab that from a Hackbox website. I'm just going to run this. So I've already run this command before, and the environmental variable is already set. So it's just, if it would have been a different environmental variable previously on the machine, it would have shown that it's been changed from the previous value to the new value. Next, it performs a couple of ping scans. It performs DNS pointer lookup against itself, because sometimes with the CTF machines you might have a DNS server open, and so there may be pointer records that exist. So it just checks for that, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. It also creates a bunch of directories in the documents folder or directories. So if we go over to the documents folder, HtB, and then Blackfield, now here we've got a bunch of subdirectories. The other thing that you would want to do generally when running this, I don't necessarily need to do this now because I already set my environment variable previously, but if I do source bash rc, this effectively loads your profile on the machine, so it would refresh the existing shell, and any tabs that we open from here on out would automatically sort of start up and load the bash profile of the user that you're using. So that's that. Next thing I would do is touch or create pub targets file. We don't need to do that. And then I'll create a few additional files which I have standards for, which you can see here. So a users.txt, list of usernames collected, a list of users with the loot added, passwords, brute force passwords, and so on. So let's copy this. Oh, should have actually moved it into the enumeration path. So cd enumeration. So I would normally come into this enumeration path and then work out of this directory, effectively saving a bunch of stuff into here. Next step for me would be to, well, I can come over and effectively open up a Python web server. This doesn't necessarily need to be done now, but normally what I do is I'd keep a list of files that I would want to upload later on in one place. So I have local users, zip, and domains. If I go into local user, in here I've got a bunch of additional tools and scripts that could potentially be used to assist with privilege escalation, things like this. So I think it's handy to have all of this in one place, and usually I like to keep them all in zip files so I can just transfer the entire thing over, and that helps out quite a bit. But we don't necessarily need to open up any server just yet, whether it be HTTP or SMB, or even SSH. We don't need to open any of these servers just yet. I have this listed here. It's just as a sort of act in terms of preparing for what's to come, but it's not necessary at this point. Next thing will be to start running the service scan. So come over and grab some of the commands that we use. And the great thing about setting up environment variables for me, as you'll see, going through methodo, is we reference trgt1 in this methodology in the notes, so it's pretty easy to come in and copy commands and paste them into the shell. And for a large part of my notes reference trgt1. So for majority of the case, I wouldn't need to make any modifications or changes to the commands that I'm running. Will be some little bits here and there that you need to make changes for, but more often than not, I can just copy and paste. So here we can see 53, 88, 135, 389, and 445. So we have a machine which is also a domain controller, presumably since it has 88 open. That's the Kerberos authentication protocol. RPC, LDAP, cool. Next, I'm going to run a more thorough scan, and I'm just going to let this cook on the side. So this uses rustscan, and it grabs the output from rustscan and passes that as the input for the -p argument, which asks for ports, and then nmap would effectively perform a version scan and run default scripts, and it saves the output as well. Now this might take a little bit of time, but generally I find using rustscan, it runs a little bit quicker than using nmap on its own. I'm not entirely sure where with nmap we use -pn to avoid the ping scan if there is an argument required for rustscan. That could be the case, I think, but I'm not entirely sure. I use nmap a lot more than rustscan, which is I use nmap a lot more than I do any other tool. When it comes to identifying running services. But in preparation for the OSCP, I did find using nmap against all ports was taking way too long. But in any case, what I will do just below this is we can also run nmap and just run it against the top ports. So -SVC -PN $TRGT1. You can run this as well, just in case rustscan hangs. And I don't have rustscan running with verbose in this command, so we can't actually see. And then the other thing that I would do is I'm going to copy this, which is in green. So this is SU, which performs a UDP scan. Okay, so just copy this. And I'm going to come create another tab below, or another what am I doing here? We'll split the terminal, and we can copy this in. So we've got our results here for the standard top ports. It probably is the case that rustscan has hung somewhere. Usually this takes a lot quicker than what it is right now. But we can kind of use this one here then for now. So what I would do generally is I'd take notes of these things, right? So I'd probably copy this, put it into a text file, or within Obsidian I'd be documenting the steps that I'm doing. So I'd copy the results over into Obsidian and kind of work from there. I'm not going to do that right now, but we can kind of move on to the next step. Okay, so rustscan is complete by the looks of it. And let's see what it had found. The 53, 135, 445, 593, 36, 3268, And then the additional one here is 5985. Okay, cool. So this is now come over to Nmap effectively. You can see the NSC scripts that will be running against those ports. So hopefully we should get something back pretty soon. On all the ports that are discovered. But in the meantime, what we can do at this stage is begin to prioritize what needs to be looked at from a testing perspective. So again, coming over to methodo, this is just an example of an initial action plan that I would have in place. What I like to do based on the services that are running would be to generally check for quick wins first. I would like to look for null logins, anonymous access, web paths, and so on before digging too deep into some of the other services. So here you can see running a phone scan and then checking HTTP quick, and that would involve looking for directories or subdomains, things like this. DNS, SMB, so on and so forth. In this case, we know LDAP is open, we know RPC is open, so that's going to be a potential avenue. LDAP is going to be a potential avenue. These are certainly things to look at. SMB as well. So let me just open up Sublime. And let's just say Blackfield. So we can start off by checking, let's just say SMB, and then we can look at LDAP and RPC. Let's just come over here and check. Okay, 5985 HTTP. Okay, so LDAP and RPC. What else is open? We have domain. We can come and look at domain after these. And then some of the others. So 5985, let's just say 985. HTTP. By the way, I've got a new keyboard. So still kind of adjusting to it. But I'll be back in just a sec. Hello, welcome back. Yeah, so where were we? Okay. Developing plan of things to check. So for with SMB, we can check null sessions. Same with these. Null slash user, random user. With LDAP, we could also potentially do user brute force. Because there doesn't appear to be that many ports open. You know, we're not seeing a whole bunch of web servers that are open and so on. So we'll just have to see how things go with SMB and some of these others to see what the initial point of effectively where we'll be able to gather information on the target, right? So the potentially the initial entry point. So domain in this case usually it would be searching for subdomains, but I don't necessarily think that be applicable. And to be honest, in checking, well, in running CTF gen, we actually perform that check, so I'm just going to remove that for now. Maybe I'll bring it down here. So yeah, let's start off then. Okay, so these are the ports that we have. This would have saved to a file called nmapthorough.out. So by ls, we can see that here. UDP scan as well. That's still running. But we can start off with what we have got. Okay, so we're going to go SMB first. And again, if I come over to methodo, you will see I have a section on file shares, file sharing servers, and then we have SMB up here. So some enumeration that I would do, first thing would be to run nmap vulnerability scans against SMB. So let's just copy this in and let's run this. We would also want to check for null sessions. So just going to copy this. Run this on the side as well. And we can see we have the ability to view shares. And that's pretty cool. If we look to the left over here with regards to the vulnerability checks, we didn't really find anything interesting. Okay, so we'll just come out of that. And I think the thing that we'll work on with regards to SMB will be in the fact that we can potentially read shares. We can certainly list out the shares that exist. So let's see if we do this. SMB client -- no pass, and then here we should actually have trgt1. I'm just going to change this out to trgt1, and we do something like forensic. So the first thing that I would want to do if I see SMB shares are open is I would want to go into a share that looks like a non-default, and in this case forensic certainly looks like a non-default share. So let's see what happens. Entity status access denied. Okay, so we don't have the ability to look in that. What about sysvol? access is also denied. Okay, so I'm just going to make dir SMB out, and I'm going to cd into this. Next thing I'm going to run is crack map exec. There are several things that we can do since anonymous access is enabled, but it could potentially be that simply access to those shares that are listed are disabled. There are still some things that we could potentially do, right? So firstly, let's just check this. I'm just going to change this to $2RGT1. And so this lists out the shares as well. And it says we have read on IPC and read on profiles. How about we check profiles? So come back here and go. Okay, so checking profiles. Checking profiles gives us a list of what appear to be usernames, right? So these look like user profiles. They're all directories, so what I'm going to do is prompt off and recurse on. I'm going to go mget everything. The other thing that comes to my mind would be to just grab all of these names and create a user list out of these. So that's something I want to do as well. Okay, so if I exit ls and I do tree, so we can see that doesn't really appear to be anything in any one of these directories. I do tree-a, show everything. It's still the same. Okay. So one of the things that I would do just to get a list of all of these names is just ls-1. I think that's what I just did right now. Generally, if you do ls, it lists it out with a bunch of columns. We just want it to be one column so that we can just grab that and create a user list from that. So ls-1, and we can type that into users.txt. Well, save that into users.txt and then just cat this, and we have a bunch of usernames here. So let me okay. So let's just move this users to this path. Okay, users. We've got our usernames. And in terms of the profiles, it's pretty much all that's in that particular share. We can continue. I mean, it looks like we don't really have any further access in these shares, but I do like to run several tools. So I'm just going to run SMB map as well. Let's see if this comes back with anything. Oh, actually, another thing that, yes, this SMB map with -r, it's a recursive search, so it's going to go into each of the folders or each of the shares and list out what it can see. So another thing that I would also like to do is RID brute. Now this is something that you might find if you run a tool like enum for Linux, it attempts to grab a list of usernames. So run crackmap exec -u, and I think this could be empty-p empty, and then rid root. This may or may not. Okay, so what if we did guest? Yeah, okay. So this comes back with a list as well. A list of potential, groups, potential users, maybe. So SVC web, file, exchange, intranet, Blackfield, support, audit, so what I'm going to do is, okay, so we see support in our user list. We also see audit 2020 in our user list. Okay. Don't really need to add these because I was just looking through the output of this rid brute force through crackmap, and I saw these two users. So I was just double checking to see if we had that in our users list already, and we look to. So that's cool. Since we've got a list of usernames, there are a few things that we could potentially do with this. Okay. So again, I'm just above me. I'm coming back to the methodology. I have a bunch of usernames, so potentially we could run, we could try as rep roasting, try password spraying, brute force and authentication, and client-side attacks if possible. If you have a username, try mutations of the username against the service. So Jack, this as an example, Jack. That probably won't necessarily be applicable in this case, but if you do have web applications that are open and login services and all of these other things, I think it's definitely worth trying these sorts of mutations. Yeah, variations of the username and passwords and stuff like this. And there's a process that I would have for password spraying in general, but the first thing that I want to try in this case would probably be to do an as rep roast. So yeah, probably worth trying that. But then we can also check, RPC and LDAP for additional bits of information. I don't really think there's much more from SMB that we can do in this case. But we have got a list of users, so that is good. That is a win. And we will check as rep roasting. So I'm just going to take a note of this. Okay, so we will check as rep on user list and maybe brute, or say spray if needed. The only problem with spraying password against the set of users that we have is that the user list is quite large, right? So work count users dash L. We have 315 users that were listed. That would make it a very, very difficult task for us to really go ahead and brute force or perform a passage spray on these users. We can use something super generic, but in this case it seems to me like it would probably be unlikely. But if we had fewer users, then I think for sure it would be valuable in running that sort of brute force check against them. And I guess we can still do that. Okay, wait, let's just check svc underscore backup as well. So cat users.txt. Yeah, so we've got svc backup. Another thing is, maybe if we are to do any brute forcing, then or password spraying, we can do it against a set of users, right? So let's check this user is in there as well. Lider, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but let us add this user in. So that's why I think it's important to do these additional checks, right? So in this case, rid brute, and that's provided at least that one additional user, a LiDAR field, whatever the name is. But yeah, at least we've got that one user that we've added to our users file. LiDAR recall, I don't know. Any case, that's SMB. Let me just double check we've got all of these right. So svc backup, and the reason I'm checking these is because these here look like potential usernames, and they do look legitimate, and they've come off a rid brute force. SRV web, SRV file. So these look like server names. These are potential users. I guess these could be SAM account names. Support audit 2020. Again, potential users. So that's why I've just added this one here that we had found. But yeah, the next thing I'm gonna do, since I've got a list of users, like I say, it would be to check as rep roasting, and then maybe if I was to password spray, it would be on a specific set of users. But again, before going ahead and doing that, I do want to check out if we can access LDAP and RPC without creds. So I've got a section here, LDAP and RPC. We have a set of usernames that can potentially be used if you are just brute forcing usernames without any prior knowledge. But since we have a user list, I think it's probably going to be unlikely we need to do this. But yeah, let's start off with LDAP. We're going to go LDAP unauth. And we can start by doing some LDAP searches. So we can copy this. And I'll just paste this in, and this is just getting some information on the domain, so we can see sort of the distinguished name for the domain. We can see blackfield.local, so we can add this to our Etsy host. I might already have it there, but I would need to update the I'd need to so oh gosh, didn't have writing permission. Do need to clean this up. Okay. Okay, cool. So I can ping it. Any case, so we've just found the DN for this. That's fine. Let's see if we can get a list of users by performing LDAP searching. I just need to change this to Blackfield. So in order to perform this operation, a successful bind must be completed on the connection. So that means we probably need to authenticate, but just check using WinApp search again. It will probably provide me with the same output. So a successful bind is required for this operation. Please provide valid credentials. Okay, so that's fine. We can't really enumerate the domain without creds, which is something that we don't have at this moment. The next step that I would have done, I mean, I can run it in the background, but I don't think it's necessary. It's also going to be a little bit more tricky because we found that the standard for the names is first name and followed by the surname, right? So if we look at this, you know, we have T, CAFO, T, whatever that is. So the user names have a particular standard which you won't necessarily find in many word lists. But what I would have done otherwise would have been to use LDAP nom to perform a brute force on users that exist or cur brute. Okay, the commands are there. We're not authenticated just yet, but if we do get credentials, then we can start thinking about further LDAP enumeration using Bloodhound. We could check a few other things as well. So the next thing I'm going to move on to would be RPC. And again, we don't have creds just yet, so we can run RPC without any creds and see what we get. So it looks like we can get in. So if I do query this info, okay, entity status access denied. Enum domains, enum privs. Okay, so there's not much to be able to do here. There's not much we'll be able to do here with RPC, okay. The hell was that? What? Okay. Alright then. Yeah, there's not much we'll be able to do with RPC here. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come out of this. So we've tried RPC. Okay, actually, yeah, I'll try running enum for Linux ng. So we can just run this. Not connect. Okay. Okay. It's a first new follower turn. Yeah, this is like my first time properly streaming, so I'm not particularly familiar with a lot of the things, so yeah. Well, whoever did follow, thank you for following. Cool. Any case, I think what I will check here, in this case, will be to asrep on the user list. So my ls cat users text. And I have a section down here for asrep roasting. Okay, so we're going to pass in a user file. Again, we managed to get this user file from SMB, and we managed to find an additional user by enumerating the rid, right? So we did a rid brute using crack map exec. I'm just going to copy this guy and unpack it, get np users, user files, users.txt, and then the domain name is Blackfield.local, pass in, no pass in request. Let's see. Aha. So support. Okay. Cool. So we do have a result here, and that's good. We've got Blackfield, the user support. Again, we found this. I think we found support. Yeah, support was found in the profiles from SMB that we were, the profiles share that we were looking at earlier. So I can just grab this, and then to crack this, we can run the following hashcat command. You can also use John. So let's just save this to, if I go into user underscore info, and I'm just gonna go support. And then I'm also just gonna nano support for hash. Just copy this in, and we can run hashcat on this. So hashcat, okay. Support underscore hash rocku.txt force, and let's see. Okay, that's cool. We get a password back for this user. So let's first thing nano user underscore info. Okay, hang on. Need to copy this. Cool. So we've got a credential. So the first thing that I would do is just check with crackmap exec smb trgt1 dash u. You can say support dash e. Okay, status logon failure. Is this local? Don't think it will be, but worth checking. Black Knight, Black Knight. So yeah, I've just got a question. Why don't I identify what type of hash that was? So the reason I don't need to identify that is because in order to find it, I used what did I use? I used in-packet get NP users. So this tool would look for users that don't have the pre-authentication check set within AD. So it would provide us with a TGT. So we don't necessarily need to check which hash it is if we already know. That makes sense. So yeah, I mean in these notes that I've got here, I've already listed, for instance, the mode that I'm using for hashcat, which looks at TGT. So yeah, we've got a password, but now I'm trying to see if I can use it to authenticate. SMB, let's just check LDAP. Maybe just put quotes around this. Support at blackfield.local. We have the password here. Yeah, so Okay. Come back up here. And check. Check if we have the ability to run WinDAP search with this. I mean, it would be LDAP that it's using, but four dash E. Oh, sorry, it's not Cascade. Blackfield. Invalid credentials. That's interesting. So, Black Knight. Black Knight. I'm back with invalid creds. Okay, let me just check something else. I think I add this to creds. What if we did exec SMB or actually LDAP or TRGT1 dash U users and then dash P. So this is effectively password spraying this password. Okay, so A Aleni. Actually, that probably wasn't right. Just add uses text. A Aleni. Yeah, this does not seem right. Port SBC backup. Blackfield.local. That can I try same thing again, just for support. Nah, it's not working either. B. Okay. I'm not sure why the creds aren't working. Do you think even if I use enum for Linux, it would come back with the same thing? Enum for Linux ng. Let's use this. Nah, it's just got the same bit of information from that. On this box before, what if I try to run Bloodhound? Theory, I mean, if I can't connect on LDAP with this user, I shouldn't be able to run Bloodhound. I'm just going to give this a try nevertheless. Support, specify the password. See if this works. No. Could not authenticate LDAP. Check your credentials and LDAP server requirements. Oh man. Okay. Maybe it's not meant to be the path, you know, with this password. I'm not 100% sure about that. Yeah, so see what else was there for us to check. So we did this. Got password back. User support. But can't seem to use on LDAP or SMB. Check as rep roast on user list. We've done that. I guess, I mean, again, if we can't get in through LDAP, then we can't really check Kerber roasting either. That would have been another option for us since we would have had creds, but can't seem to get into LDAP with the creds that we have for the user support. Let's try it nevertheless. Not gonna work, but user support password. Okay, invalid credentials. Okay, one sec. Let me just quickly check. When running crack map, dash local auth. Dash local. Already tried this. Okay, let me try. It's just not working. SMB client, again, it's the same thing, so it's unlikely to work, but TRGT1 dash U TRGT1 dash U support, no wait, sorry, blackfield.local, local port, and the password for this. Wait, hang on. No, NT status logon failure. Okay. Well, I might just call it there, to be honest, and then come back to this. I have done this box before, but it feels like a little bit of time since I did it. And as I mentioned at the start, I didn't want to spend too long. I think I wanted to give this an hour to go through. This is just gonna bug me out a little bit, I think. We did as rep burst in the user list. We got a password for the user support. I can't remember if at the time I did have to use this user account and the password that was retrieved, so I'm not sure if maybe the box may need to be reverted. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it there. By the way, thank you, Memorable, for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. Run that ASREP burst again. Wait, audit 2020. Don't require pre-auth. Yeah. KDC errors with these other ones. Actually, I guess what I can do. So support at blackfield.local comes back with this TGT. SVC backup doesn't have UF required. Okay, what I will do is I'll run LDAP nom and I'll specify the user list that we've had. I mean, you can also use curb root to do this, but let's kind of filter down the file that we've got. So just grab this, paste this in, and as input, we're just going to use the users.txt file that we have, --server tgt1. So these 4 users from the user list that we have appear to be the only legitimate users. Let's just come paste them in. And let's run it again. Again, we already know it's only going to be support. And we've already put this through the test. You know, we save this to support hash. So what if we do John user I'm gonna do John dash word list equals user share word lists rock-u and then support hash. Again, it's probably going to come back with the same password, but that password just didn't appear to work for any of the users that we tested it against. Oh, was I missing out the pound sign? Oh my goodness. Hang on. Yeah, I must have. Crack map exec and b $trgt1 dash u port. Well, that's for dash p. Let's see. Yeah, so that's it. I was missing out on the pound sign. Dang it. So let's see if I can run Bloodhound now. So if I just go history, actually I'll just go Control R, Bloodhound Python. Or probably need to put these in quotes. Yeah, so we've managed to. Oh man, I should have made a new directory. mv all JSON into bhound, cd bhound, and over on this tab we can run, or we could start sudo neo4j start, and then we can run Bloodhound. And I'm just gonna, well, I don't remember what I've got loaded in Bloodhound, so I'm just gonna have to switch the screen like this. Okay, so I'm just loading the files into Bloodhound. So come in, put all of these in. The only thing that I was missing for maybe the past 10-15 minutes was that stupid pound sign that I didn't pick up for the password. Very silly, but yeah, that was it. They should be loaded now. If we refresh database stats, we can come over into analysis, and there are a few things that I would do. once I've loaded the stats into Bloodhound, I'm just going to come down again in my methodo under AD enumeration. We run Bloodhound. This is something that we've just done. So we ran Bloodhound remotely using the credentials that we had. We've started Bloodhound, and now we are going to go ahead and do a little bit of analysis to start with. So here are a few things that I would look at, right? So a couple of important ones would be objects that the current user has access and control over. Something that we can look at. We can look at groups, look at shortest path to domain admins and that sort of thing. The first thing I'm going to do, list out all users, and there are going to be a whole bunch, I guess, because apparently there are over 300 users on this. On this box. Okay. Let's just restart this. Okay, so let's start off by searching for support. If we click on this user, then we should get properties attributed to this user side. So membership, member of domain users, outbound object control. Support has the ability to change the password of audit 2020. Okay, now this box, and now it's really coming back to me, so I can remember. Okay, so we need to change. We'll likely need to change the password of audit 2020. If I go up and I check something like shortest path. Okay, wait, let me click and set this user as owned, set this user as owned, because presumably we can change this guy's password. We know that we can, but let's say find shortest path to domain admins from shortest path to domain admins from owned principal. Okay, we don't get anything back. But we do have the ability to modify the password of audit 2020. Another thing that we can do, which I think I've already done, is check the access that our user support has on the SMB server. And it had access to some things, but they seem to be the same as the null session access. Okay, so if I do it again, if I run, actually I run SMB map. So SMB map dash H $TRGT1 dash U support dash P and the password for it is cat. Okay, so the password for it is, I don't want to forget the pound sign or the hashtag. Okay, so you can see we have read-only sysvol profiles IPC, and this is pretty much what we had going in as a sort of null session user. But let's check. If I do the client and I do sysvol. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, let me just come out of here. So go into support SMB out and then do the same thing, basically download everything, and just check through sysvol. But in doing that, I won't actually find anything. I know the step from here for us to take is going to be to change the password of audit 2020 and then begin enumeration with that user. So we can do that, and I'll do that real quick, but we can do that with RPC client. Since we don't have the ability to access the machine, we don't have the ability to access the box, one of the things that we can do is use RPC client to make these kinds of modifications. So let's give that a try. We do have a password this time, so we can come down to the authenticated side and come over to RPC client -u username, and then we specify the username and the password. So we're going to do this. The username is support, and the password this time, we've got it, is going to be this Black Knight, but with a hashtag in front. I'm going to put this in quotes, and we're in. This time, if we do something like DOM, enum DOM users, we should see we have the ability to enumerate users. So if I do query this info, okay, so we have the ability to have a look through here as well. And again, as part of the methodology, I think it's also important, if you have this kind of access, and access on LDAP, I think it's also important to run these LDAP search queries, because sometimes all it might take is looking through the description of a particular user that's been set up to find that their password was left there accidentally by the administrator. So it's useful to run some of these again, right? So if I've managed to get creds, in this case I have, the process would be to go through the auth section of each of these things that I've already looked at unauth previously, right? So LDAP search, WinDAP search, Bloodhound. I've done Bloodhound. Before going ahead and using RPC client, I'm going to just quickly use this LDAP search. This is something I'm not entirely sure you would see the description and every property of the user within the Bloodhound app. We can come in and check. So if I go and type support and I hit enter, I click on this user, I don't think wait, hang on. Yeah, it looks like we do have the ability to look through a whole bunch of these things, but it's not, I don't think it's as easy to work with that data. Whereas if we did something like WinDAP search and we use our password to authenticate, so you can see the mode that we're using here is users, password support, and then just specify the password here. Oh wait, let me just come out of Cascade and do Blackfield. So you can see this comes back providing us with the details of each of these user objects, and then we can kind of go in and we can search for description, we can search for password, we can query for that kind of information. So we could do something like, let's just tee this, actually, hang on. Yeah, let's just tee this into ldap.out. And then we can just cat ldap users.out, but we can grep for something like password. pwd dash I pass. We can look for, what else can we look for? Maybe something, let's just check description. So you can go through the output of this LDAP query that you've just done to look for potential passwords or information on some of the users that exist and that kind of thing. So that could also be useful. So again, like when it comes to the methodology, it would be the case of coming back to each of these services, but now with an authenticated user. But this is not the method that we're going to be using for this box. I don't think we get any information from that. We need to go through authenticated RPC client as support, and then we'll change the password of the Audit 2020 user, which we saw we had the ability to do from Bloodhound. So support, and then the password for support. Now we're going to go ahead and change the password for Audit 2020. We can use set user info 2. This is an RPC client command that you can use. So we're going to say Audit 2020, and the new password, we'll just save it as Audit 2020. Set user info 2. Username is Audit 2020. I believe that is the guy that we have the ability to make modifications to. So outbound, we can force change password. The password 1, 2, 3. Okay, there. So we've changed the password for this user to password 1, 2, 3. So now I can come in. Okay. Now I'm going to come out of this, and we can go crack map exec smb $trgt1 -u audit 2020 -p password 1, 2, 3. Huh. Password 1, 2, 3. Why did that not work? ability to change audit 2020's password. We did that as support. And we changed the password of audit 2020 to password 123. And why is this not working then? Let's just go back in as support and let's see if we can. Okay, keep doing ls there, but let's set user info 2 and we want to say audit 2020 23 new password 123. Okay, don't know if it takes a second for it to think, but crack map exec can be $trgt1 -u audit 2020 -b new password 3. Okay, so that worked. I don't know, maybe it could have had something to do with some kind of password policy, but that looks to work. So if we do --shares now, we see that this user has the ability to read this file called forensic. Okay, so what I would do here, effectively, as you can see, you know, the idea is once we get creds, we kind of go through the steps from methodo, but we go back to the section where we're now able to authenticate, right? So since we have authentication as this new user, we go back and we run the same stuff, you know, the SMB stuff, but this time we come in with standard authentication. We go in, we check the shares, we see what we have the ability to access, we download all the files, we look for any kind of interesting information, and we'd go from there. I'm well over the 1 hour that I kind of schedule this time in for, so I'm actually going to stop here. But maybe I'll pick this up at a later point and just kind of continue on from where I've left off. But yeah, we're gonna end it here for now. Next time we come back, I will look at this forensics share as the user order 2020, and we'll continue going through this methodology that I've got just above me. I know that the lighting's gone pretty bad, but yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Again, thank you, Memorable, for joining in. This is like one of the first, maybe the second streams that I've done. It's the second stream that I've done, but like yesterday, well, when I was playing with it last time, really did not know what I was doing. Still don't. But yeah, man, appreciate it. And hopefully for anybody who does tune in or watch this on demand, I hope that this helps. And I'll catch every one of y'all in the next. I mean, to be honest, I don't really expect many or any views, but yeah, cool, man. Thanks and bye.